The 2022 Matric results will be released on the 20th of January. The Department of Basic Education and Umalusi say the delay is due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The Education Quality Assurance Body, Umalusi, says matriculants waiting to submit their final results at universities will not miss admission deadlines, as tertiary institutions are aware of the delays. Let's get more now. We are joined by Dr. Mafu, Rakometsi, the Umalusi CEO. Very good evening to you. Thank you so much for joining us, Doctor. There are concerns in the delay of the release of the Matric results. I mean, in previous years, these results would have been out already. Talk to us perhaps on the reasons behind it. You've mentioned COVID-19 as a factor, but perhaps give us more clarity.
Thank you very much, Mpho. Thanks for hosting me, and thank you very much to your viewers. Yes, indeed, the timelines have shifted a bit as a result of the 2 years of COVID that we had in 2020 and 2021. This has affected the school calendar. However, the delay has been accommodated because all the stakeholders in the system, including the universities under the banner of University of South Africa, have been aware of the date of the release of the results. And the Department of Basic Education, by the time they released the date, they would have consulted with the University of South Africa. So we don't have a crisis here. What happens with the admissions at the different universities is that the students start applying in September of the previous year. And also, by the time the minister releases the results on the 20th of January, the data sets for all the students would have been released to all the universities. For the universities to do their selections in terms of the students that have applied to them, they are then able to do the sifting based on those data sets. The students, after getting their results, then have to physically present themselves with their statement of results to the universities. I'm aware that the system in some universities allow walk-ins. However, in the past 6 years or 5 years ago, you'd recall an unfortunate incident at the University of Johannesburg with the walk-ins where a parent passed away. So I'm aware that the Minister of Higher Education and Training, Minister Nzimande, discourages walk-ins. Everything is in place, all the stakeholders are aware, and everybody must have prepared himself or herself in the system.
So perhaps let's just go back again to some of the causes of the delays and maybe talk us through the processes that followed behind the scenes when it comes to looking at each subject and the manner in which the workflow worked this time around.
Let me just indicate that the examinations were completed on the 6th of December 2022. As late as the 23rd of December, some marking centers were still concluding marking. And then what follows marking is the capturing of the marks on the computers. So we then had a Christmas break, of course, between Christmas and New Year, because the data capturers were still capturing the data. Early this week, from Tuesday, we started with the standardization processes, having all the information, all the data on the graphs and tables. And earlier today, we were in meetings with the Department of Basic Education, where we were standardizing the subjects individually from the Department of Basic Education. Yesterday, we were with the Independent Examinations Board. And on Sunday, we'll be with the South African Comprehensive Assessment Institute. And on Monday, we'll be with the Department of Higher Education and Training. This shows that the delay has not only been caused to the systems of the Department of Basic Education, but it is across the board. And then we will consider the irregularities later, next week, to say where did the irregularities occur. And on the 16th of January, we'll be able to address the South African public on the results that we approve for release And that meeting will be led by the chairperson of council, Professor Eunice Balim. It is only after those pronouncements would have been made that the minister will be able to release the results on the 19th of January 2023.
Yeah. You have expressed concern over the past few weeks about the allegations of a cheating scandal and, of course, how that bodes with the integrity of the National Senior Certificate. Was that also perhaps some of the challenges that you had to deal with ensuring that these results are released at this stage?
No. The results are being released as per the plan, as per the schedule. The irregularities that have occurred are unfortunate. However, they don't affect our date of release. All the irregularities will be considered when we meet the department to consider the report on how they ran these examinations, including all the irregularities that occurred, including the ones in Mpumalanga where there was a WhatsApp group where students paid for answers to be prepared for them. We'll consider all the irregularities across the different assessment bodies. And we'll be able to then make a determination whether those results of those students are released or are withheld, to maybe as a sanction or for further investigations. I can't make that determination now. I don't want to preempt what is going to happen in that meeting where we'll be considering the reports from the Department of Basic Education. As things stand, we don't have full information as to what happened. It is only when we'll be meeting next week that the department will be giving us the full picture of what has happened and what the recommendation is. And then Umalusi will apply its mind and adjudicate on the matter accordingly.
How important is it to continue to ensure the credibility and integrity of the National Senior Certificate?
We will always put systems in place to ensure that as the crooks create new techniques of beating the system, that we improve our system. You'll know with the technological advancement, you close this gap. Then people move and they ultimately develop another technique of cheating the system. I have comfort in knowing that the irregularities that we are talking about are not systemic. They are isolated in the system, and we are able to pinpoint where they occurred, and we are able to take the necessary remedial measures, be they in the form of punitive measures that the students are subjected to. And if the problems were system-wide, I would be very worried. But isolated as they are, we think the system, big as it is, will be able to manage it because they are very small and they are isolated in the system.
And before we let you go, as the matriculants, the class of 2022, has been waiting for so long, there's a lot of anxiety with the delays. What would you say to those who are waiting anxiously for something that really paves the path to their future?
I would be very careful not to say there are delays. I would say there are delays if we had promised to release earlier. But the date of the release has always been known, and we are working according to the plan. So nobody should be anxious because the date of the release of the results was announced way back. Looking at the timetabling that we have from the time the schools were opened at the beginning of 2022, when the examinations commenced, when the marking happened, and now we are in standardization. So nobody has to be anxious. I would say the students who are waiting for their results should wait patiently for the release of the results, and the date has been announced. So they should be targeting that date and not any other date, and there is no need, therefore, for them to be anxious in any way.
Very well. Thank you so much. Let's leave it there for now. Dr. Mafu Rakometsi, Umalusi CEO, talking to us about the processes that have had to be taken into consideration before the release of the Matric class of 2022 results, which is January the 20th, as opposed to previous years where the results were released within the first week of January. Of course, some advice there coming from the CEO of Umalusi.